The book I chose to talk about was The Pigman by Paul Zindel. Set in the 1960s, New York City, John and Lorraine are not happy with their lives and are struggling to find their place in the world. They have a history of playing pranks and making up stories just to amuse themselves. One day, they decide to prank call an old man called Mr. Pignatty, pretending to represent a charity. They manage to deceive him and get him to invite them to his house to make a donation. However, when they arrive, they realize that Mr. Pignatty is not the eccentric, wealthy man they had imagined. Instead, he is a sweet and lonely man who has lost his wife and has no family or friends to turn to. John and Lorraine immediately feel sorry for Mr. Pignatty, and soon they become friends. The trio spends their time together exploring the city, playing with Mr. Pignatty's collection of ceramic pigs, and enjoying each other's company. Mr. Pignatty becomes almost like a father figure for John and Lorraine, who have difficult home lives. However, their happiness is soon shattered when Mr. Pignatty was admitted to the hospital. One theme of this book can be friendship. Friendship can come unexpectedly, but you have to work on it. In the novel The Pigman, the theme of friendship is explored in great depth. The story revolves around two high school students, John and Lorraine, who develop an unlikely friendship with an older man, Mr. Pignatty. Despite their initial intentions to scam him, John and Lorraine quickly grow to care for Mr. Pignatty and find themselves becoming his friends. However, their friendship is tested when Mr. Pignatty's health deteriorates. Another theme is trust. Trust requires vulnerability from both sides. We see how the characters struggle with the need to trust and to be trusted. This theme is explored through the relationship between various characters, who grapple with their own vulnerabilities as they try to build meaningful connections with one another. This is evident in the novel in various ways. For instance, Lorraine and John initially struggle to open up to others due to their own insecurities and fears. However, as the story progresses, we see the characters begin to let their guard down. They start to reveal more about their true selves, gradually building trust with one another. This is especially evident in one of their interactions with Mr. Pignatty. Yet this trust is not one-sided. Mr. Pignatty also shows his own vulnerability, allowing the teens to see him as a flawed human rather than being just a grown-up. His openness and willingness to share his own vulnerabilities with the teenagers is what ultimately leads them to being able to trust him fully. One memorable passage is, "I want you to meet Bobo." Bobo, even John's eyes widened. "My best friend," Mr. Pignatty explained. The significance of this passage shows that Bobo was the monkey that Mr. Pignatty called his friend. This shows he wanted to share his friend with Lorraine and John. He wanted to share something that is an important part of his life with these two students. Since Lorraine and John were now Mr. Pignatty's friends, he wanted to share his friends too. Another important passage was, "We just had to be honest with you because we like you more than anyone we know." Finally, we had to stop talking and wait for some response from him. He has turned his head away and seemed to be looking out the window. Parago's John had been right. When he said we should have forgotten the whole thing, he never mentioned it. Maybe there are some lies you should never admit to. The significance of this passage was Mr. Pignatty was so nice to them that their conscience didn't let them lie to him anymore because they felt guilty. That is why, even though they were afraid of the consequences, Mr. Pignatty could have forbade them from coming to him. They told him that they were not representing any charities. The third important passage was, "We murdered him," she screamed, and I turned away because I had been through just about all I could stand. "Here's your glasses," I said again, almost hating her for a second. I wanted to yell at her, tell her he had no business fooling around with the kids. I wanted to tell her that he had no right going backward. When you grow up, you're not supposed to go back. Trespassing, that's what he had done. The significance of this shows the moment when John does not agree with Lorraine, who should be blamed for the death of Mr. Pignatty. He blames Mr. Pignatty for becoming a child so he could steal their hearts. John feels disappointed that the only person who cared about them left them like everyone else did. The author's style is he writes from the first-person point of view. He also writes like someone is talking and having a conversation. The Pigman feels like someone is telling you a story with few dialogues. He also has a very simple writing style that is easy to understand. The most interesting aspect of the author's style is that it flows like a conversation and makes you want to keep on reading. An example of this is when the author writes, "She got plastic covers on everything. I mean, I like my mom and all that, but she runs around like a chicken with its head cut off." I selected this book because I was looking up books to read for this project, and this one interested me because I didn't know what it was going to be based off of the title, so I was intrigued. One of the ways it affects me is Lorraine and John are both relatable and complex characters with flaws and strengths. Through their perspectives, the story unfolds, and we witness how their lives intertwine with Pigman's. We see how the teenagers bring joy and happiness to the Pigman, but also learn how his life has been affected by grief, loneliness, and his own demons. My favorite aspects were the way it captures the emotions and experiences of young people in a realistic and authentic way. One of the most significant aspects of the book is its exploration of the consequences of our own actions. The characters make choices that have unintended and far-reaching consequences, and the impact of those choices is a central theme throughout the book, which is an important lesson for young people who are often grappling with issues of responsibility and accountability. I highly recommend The Pigman because of its accessibility to all young adult readers. The book is written in a light conversational style that grips the reader from the very first page. The characters are also very well developed and relatable, and the story explores deeper themes.